right, guys. Welcome to the Dom and Nate Show. I'm Dom.
I'm Nate.
And we have our guest today. Oh, sorry. We have our guest today, Leif Anderson. So, Leif, please introduce yourself.
Hey, guys. Well, first off, it's an absolute honor to be here. So I appreciate the invite coming on and connecting with your listeners. Like Dom said, my name is Leif Anderson. I'm up in Duluth, Minnesota. So about 11, 12 hours north of you guys. I am a contest prep coach. I've been doing that for the better part of 20 years now. Backgrounds in endocrinology and biochemistry. So apply that to physique transformation. I'm also a natural bodybuilding event promoter. I've been doing that since 2015. What started out with one show, it was supposed to be just one show, is now 9+. Sanctioned through the INBA, PNBA, which is the home of the Natural Olympia in Las Vegas. It really started out, with my interest, my passion for the human body. So my game plan through high school, through my undergrad was pre-med. Biochemistry just being a broad pre-med degree. During that time, I quickly learned that being in that clinical setting and jumping through the hoops that you need to jump through in our formal education, especially in regards to the human body and the pharmaceutical agenda. And there's a lot of other things that play a role that it just didn't sit right with me. So I kind of applied all that I learned to physique transformation. Beyond just the bodybuilding stage, at the end of the day, individuals' goals are their own goals. What I love to do is be able to help them learn their own body and create that proverbial muscle building, fat burning machine. So whether you need to lose 200 pounds to save your life, or you want to, dominate the stage, that's what I absolutely love doing. Back in 2014, me and my clients would travel the country, going to shows. And as you both probably can attest for being competitors and coaches yourself, there's a lot of corners that have been cut in this industry, whether through its federations or promoters, nickel and diming the competitors. And I just got tired of bringing my team to shows that I felt, to put it bluntly, it was an amateur hour. The athletes pay top dollar to be a part of this event, and they'd get a bowling ball, a bowling trophy, and just they wouldn't get the experience that I believe our sport of bodybuilding deserves. I love our sport. I'm proud of our sport, but the industry norm, the industry standard wasn't quite where I knew it had the potential to be. So I was actually, it's funny where I can identify the moment that I decided that I was going to promote my own show. Not being a promoter, not being wired like a promoter, I decided to promote my own show simply to set the standard and show others how it should be done. So I was actually driving home from Chicago with my team. We had a clean sweep of the Illinois State Championships, but like every year we go down there, we would say we're never coming back. It wasn't a good experience, but every year we would come back. Every year, the other competitors that were venting for the same issues backstage, they would come back every year. So it was fall of 2014 when I decided that I was going to launch the Minnesota Mayhem. And I had a vision for it. I capped the number of competitors that I was going to allow at 150. And for an entire year, I promoted that one single event with the athletes in mind. And it was about 16 weeks out from the show, we hit our cap of 150 competitors.
Wow.
So that was one thing where, I knew we were onto something very special. I did not want to be a victim of our own success, though, where we were overwhelmed with too many competitors. I've never promoted a show before. So I wanted to make sure that it was a competitive, yet we wouldn't lose sight of that athletes first mentality. So 150 was that perfect number. So what started out to be that one single show has grown into Minnesota Mayhem. We have the Diva Classic All-Women's event, the Michigan Roar, the Michigan State Pro-Am, and quite a few other shows throughout the entire country. So we've grown with that passion over profit mentality and the athletes first mentality. Dom, I've yet to meet you in person, so I'm looking forward to hopefully having that opportunity. Nate, I met him and his beautiful wife, Michelle, a few years ago at our Michigan Roar. And Michigan is absolutely incredible with what you guys have with that Michigan muscle. Right now, NPC is a dominating force there, and rightfully so. You got some great promoters with the NPC Michigan, but there's a lot of individuals, new competitors as well as seasoned competitors, that are eligible to compete drug-free. So I'm excited to create more opportunities through creating natural drug-free pros, getting some money in the athletes' hands, as well as helping them along the way to the road to the Natural Olympia in Las Vegas too. There's a lot of opportunities, so I'm excited to just show you guys, show the industry there in Michigan that there's options to compete, whether it's enhanced, whether it's in the natural organizations.
That's awesome. So, like with your shows, how does testing go for competitors?
So it's definitely evolved. When I first started back in 2015, we polygraphed all the competitors, and then we urine tested the overall champions, as well as all the pros who placed in the money. We did that because, again, at that time, that was the industry standard. I quickly saw that there were some issues there. Although everybody kind of blindly followed that procedure without asking questions, the abbreviated bodybuilding polygraph that was implemented, it really seemed like it was there to generate revenue as opposed to preserve the integrity of natural bodybuilding. Every competitor would pay, $50, $60 straight to the polygraph examiner, cash or money order, no checks. And they'd be in and out in 15 minutes. And it really, I started to have issues with that.
Yeah.
I don't mind taking extra steps, but I don't want to just go through the motions. So a few years ago, we pulled the poly. We were one of the first federations to pull the polygraph, and instead we now go straight urinalysis, both in season as well as out of season. Now, obviously, especially when we start to increase prize money, increase opportunities, there'll be athletes that try to cheat the system. And I mean, although I'm always optimistic and I always put everything I possibly can into preserve the integrity of the sport, it's not people slip through the cracks, but I definitely want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can. We use third-party testing, so it's not just me and my buddies now, collecting urine specimens. We have a third party, one of the best third-party collection agencies in the world, come to our events now. Collect the urine specimens. It's airtight chain of custody. We send those specimens directly to the Olympic lab in Utah. So that, in conjunction with the out-of-season testing, we really do a good job, I believe, in keeping things on a level playing field. So
I remember would have been the first Roar, the polygraph that Michelle ended up doing. She was very thorough, but very far behind. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
It was cutting in almost showtime, and there were still people who had to be polygraphed.
Well, it's funny, Nate mentions that scenario. It was that show, after that show, that I decided that we can't do this anymore. It raised too many red flags for me, not only logistically, time-wise, but just with the athlete feedback, with the examiner being short on time and just kind of rushing through things then to catch up. That's just something that we can't do. Right. So granted, in theory, it'd be great if everybody was, having a lie detector test, but when you start abbreviating that procedure, you're compromising the integrity of the results. So if that's the case, why do it? It's an extra expense for the athletes that I'd rather just place that focus elsewhere. So we urine test all of our competitors now.
That's sweet. So when you said off season, like you keep tabs on the pros or something?
So we do have the option of out of season testing amateurs as well, but for obvious reasons, we really do prioritize our natural pros. So again, I don't do this myself. It's not something that we do informally. Everything follows proper procedure. So our third-party testing with our database of athletes that we have that are members of the sanctioned body, they will contact the individual. Within 24 hours, they need to submit a specimen. So they will essentially show up at their door in the off season, and we'll be testing for our off season banned substance list.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
So I would love to scale that a little bit larger. But I mean, out of season testing is something that I've been doing since the very beginning, even back in 2015. We've been out of season testing. So although I am kind of a small fish in a very big pond of bodybuilding, somebody else can fact check. One of the reviewers can definitely fact check this if they want, but I believe that I have out of season tested more athletes, just myself through my own events. I believe that I've out of season tested more athletes than any federation in the industry as well. It's just from the very beginning, that's one thing that I wanted to be able to do.
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool, actually. I think it's great that you do things like that, because you always hear about like natural shows and people like slipping through the cracks. And I mean, honestly, if you're good with stuff, you know, half-life wise, you could time stuff perfectly.
100%.
And you know, even some metabolites don't last that long in urine. So I love the fact that you can do that and like test more people, you know, kind of almost not by random, but kind of like by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
To really see things. I mean, and it's the same way like professional athletes get tested. They just show up at their door and just say, "Come on, we got to do your test."
And that's the one thing where, I mean, like I said, I love bodybuilding. I want to help legitimize our sport. Because again, there's just too many shows, promoters, even on federations, that it's athletes, it's us muscle heads promoting the show because we love it, you know, and that's great because you got to have that passion. But I want to do all of this, every detail, both big and small. I want it to be professional. I want to legitimize our sport. I really do feel that's one of the reasons why this is such a small, like, niche market, is we're not following a proper business model, or even like any other sports league. You know, we look at any other professional sports league, and their revenue is generated through selling tickets, creating an experience, having fans. We look at bodybuilding, the revenue is generated by nickel and diming the competitors. And then you have crickets in the audience. So that's one of the things that I've been striving to do. And there's always room for improvement. But ideally, eventually, my big vision is to allow the competitors to compete for free. And with many of my shows, I've actually implemented that. And I'm not against making money, but what I want to do is I want to sell 5,000 tickets to one of our events, create an experience for people to watch and enjoy, to help our sport grow. That's what I feel that we need to do. Take a step back instead of trying to squeeze every dime that we can out of the competitors and their family. Instead, legitimize the sport, create some fans. So that's why we always strive for production value for our event. Smoke, lights, excitement. I mean, I want to create something that you literally can feel when you get there. You can feel that excitement. Regarding drug testing, and half-lives, you're 100% right. There's a lot of critiques. There's a lot of criticism for natural bodybuilding, and rightfully so. People that are cycling on and off, factoring in half-lives, so they piss clean, at the day of the show. That's real. That's a reality of our sport. That's not to dismiss the sport of natural bodybuilding. That just identifies something that we desperately need to address.
Yeah.
I've said for years now, especially with my background, I mean, although I am a natural promoter, I am well versed in the pharmaceutical aspect of things. And I've always said, if somebody fails a drug test, it's because they weren't smart enough to pass. You know, that's what it really comes down to.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
And because of that, because I'm aware of that, it allows me to take the necessary steps to try to minimize. Now, I will strive to prevent it, but we have to be realistic. But I want to minimize those opportunities. That's why we test out of season. That's why we use the Olympic lab in Utah. Excuse me. That's no. They're not only testing for anabolics, androgenics, diuretics. We also test for selective androgen receptor modulators. I mean, it's a world-class lab that can really zero in on a lot of the things that, we look at the industry, and natural bodybuilding is almost made like it's a joke because there's so many ways around things. Now, I take that criticism and then I find, instead of complaining about it, let's find some solutions.
Yeah.
And even in just the last few years, we've improved our drug testing procedures, what the lab can do. I work hand in hand with the lab when it comes to what we're testing for, how we're testing for them. And together, I believe that we can revolutionize the sport of drug-free bodybuilding.
Yeah. I think another thing is the athletes. A lot of them really don't have the knowledge. I had a female competitor who was looking to compete. She was on a blood pressure medicine with hydrochlorothiazide. Now, had I not caught it and told her to make sure she has a note from her doctor saying on why she's on it, she would have failed the drug test.
See, and that's education and knowledge. That's why we're so thankful for having individuals, professionals like Dom and yourself, is we just need to help educate. And unfortunately, I don't know if you recall, Nate, but I mean, last year's Michigan Roar, we had 2 individuals who fail. And with my ethos, what we believe is, and I wish more federations would adopt this, but we make our failed tests public. We don't sweep it under the rug, because you get a lot of federations that have somebody fail and they keep that secret. Nobody knows, and that competitor just goes competes elsewhere. You literally have world champions who have failed tests in other federations, yet the public doesn't even know. One of the individuals that failed at last year's Roar, it falls into that scenario perfectly, where he was on a legitimate prescription. It wasn't, TRT. It wasn't anabolic at all, but yet it was still on the banned substance list. But there's something called the TUE, therapeutic use exemption, where we don't want to compromise your health. We don't want to have anything that's detrimental to your health by taking away a medication. You just simply need to submit that exemption, and then you're completely fine. And although at the Michigan Roar, we had that one individual who was on a legitimate prescription, personally, I would have loved to give him an exemption after the fact. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, like I was talking about before, with legitimizing our sport, we just can't do that. You may know the promoter, Nate, I love you to death, brother. I consider you a friend. But if there was an issue with one of our procedures, I can't make exceptions. We have an airtight procedure. So this individual who has limitless potential, amazing physique, genuinely a great guy, not only did I have to disqualify him from his placing, I actually had to release that information publicly. Not to shame him, but it was one of those things where I believe that our integrity, the integrity of natural bodybuilding, has to be upheld. So I allowed, like I do with all of my athletes that compete with me, if we have a failed test, I not only make that public, but I allow them to address it in our statement. They're allowed to make their own statement along with that. We've had numerous people fail drug tests. most often it's met with, it wasn't me. I didn't cheat. Somebody must have put something in my supplements. There's a lot of deflecting and excuses. But if somebody wants to, even if it is, hey, I thought I wouldn't get caught. I didn't think that you actually send the specimen to the lab, which the unfortunate reality is many drug tested events, they'll collect your specimen and then they'll throw it out in the back. It never makes it to the lab. We send all our drug test results to the athletes just to ensure that things are going where they need to be. So we're doing things different than a lot of the natural federations. And I'm still I don't have this figured out. Nobody has it figured out. But because I'm always listening to the athlete feedback and I'm always looking to raise the bar, I believe collectively together, the athletes, prep coaches like yourself, I really do believe that together we can raise the bar for the sport.
Yeah, well, I think education has a big thing to do with it, and like you said, but like I've been talking to so many people, nobody wants to be educated. If I post something that's very educational, it gets half of the notice that if it's something that's cool.
They want the flash, yeah.
They want the flash and stuff like that. I mean, even the last video I just posted, I talked about thyroid hormone, and people were like, dude,
So I saw you post about that, and I haven't been able to dive into the video, but I'm actually really, really excited to finally get into that video because that's one of the things I'm passionate about too.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, you guys are around my age, but a while back there was the whole the IIFYM movement, the calories in versus calories out, and bashing bro diet and everything like that. I'm a lab geek, as much as anybody could be. Yet you can't be ignorant of the fact, we don't live in a metabolic cart. Now, granted, the law of thermodynamics is the law of thermodynamics, but there's so many other variables there. The human being is not calorically driven. We are hormonally driven. Look at, it's much easier to make examples with the pharmaceutical aspect as opposed to the acute hormone fluctuations. But you look at prednisone, how many calories are in a prednisone tablet? Well, the answer is none. Yet, what does that affect on weight? There's countless examples that show that simply prove that it's not all about calories in versus calories out. So I'm excited to dive into that video, Dom.
I think people just get so frustrated because they're so conditioned to think that it's just about calories. Yep. And if it's like, oh, I'm working out so much and I'm not eating that much, why aren't I losing weight? Well, there's 100 different things that it could be. And we're so conditioned to just believe that dieting is the solution. Mm-hmm. And most of the time it's, maybe the DHEA is down, maybe progesterone's too high, maybe estrogen's too high. There's so many different things that go along with that. And then people get frustrated. They'll blame the coach. They'll blame the trainer. They'll blame the nutritionist. Oh, they don't know what they're doing. They go to the next person. It doesn't happen there. They don't know what they're doing. And they go to the next person. Doesn't happen again because they're not giving anybody enough time. And they're not trying to figure out what the actual issue is. I sent 3 people for blood work this week just because you're not moving the way you should be. I know you're not cheating because I've had the talk and I just know these clients well enough to know that. Now I have a little, light bulb in my head that's saying, okay, you know what? Maybe we need to do blood work. Let's do blood work and then we'll take it from there. And I strongly believe their blood work's going to come back and something's going to be wrong. Mm-hmm.
Well, and what I love, it's like I said, I'm excited to, finally, I'm a little bit behind. Things have been pretty hectic with trying to promote shows during the apocalypse, but in the very near future, I'm going to dive into that video. But that's one of the things where I love natural bodybuilding is because and again, blood work, even a natural competitor, especially a natural competitor, should still get that blood work done because we need, as a coach and as an individual, as an athlete, you need to get that kind of sneak peek of what's going on inside the body. Because if not, we're literally grasping at straws. And what I love is, and not to belittle physicians, but oftentimes, and that's one of the things that I was really disheartened with, during my undergrad, with the medical establishment, we kind of just go through the motions with a lot of the protocols that are recommended. You know, you have somebody who is showing symptoms of hypothyroidism, and they'll get your blood work back, your TSH is off, and they get almost a knee-jerk reaction that they are going to prescribe you thyroxine. And then you know, they'll prescribe you, these are just arbitrary numbers, but 25 micrograms, and for a few weeks, you actually feel a little bit better. And then things kind of go back to the way they were, okay, let's bump that up, 50 micrograms, 75 micrograms.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you're taking 225 micrograms, and it's, you know, and how many individuals do you know that are overweight, yet they're on HRT for, you know, synthetic T4? There is so many individuals. Obviously, there is an issue with whether it's the diagnosis or what they were prescribed. You know, the human body is so amazing when it comes to actions or reactions. And it's really frustrating to see medical professionals making a prescription for, like the example that I mentioned with thyroxine, when thyroid isn't just about the thyroid gland. I mean, you look at TSH, it's produced in an anterior pituitary gland.
Yeah.
You know, it stimulates the thyroid to produce T4.
That all comes from your hypothalamus. So like, it could be an issue in so many different spots.
Exactly. You know, and T4, and this isn't me like Dom. I mean, I know your background. That's why you're one of the few people that I look up to in this industry. Nate, same for you. There are more bad coaches than they're good. So when somebody like you guys comes along, I really, really respect that. But T4 is inactive thyroid hormone. T3, majority of the T3 in the body is actually produced in your liver, converting T4 to T3. You know, there's so many steps, like you just said. It's not as simple as prescribing just one single thing and then, hope it works. And then they're on this medication for the rest of their life when it's not doing anything. I'm not anti-pharmaceutical, as long as you're not competing in a natural bodybuilding organization with, you know, banned substance. But when it comes to health, sometimes pharmaceutical, like the human body is amazing. It'll heal itself many times if you give it the opportunity to. And I always suggest try to do things naturally, working with your body, as opposed to taking something synthetic or, you know, exogenous. But sometimes we do need that pharmaceutical help. But we should I mean, all drugs have side effects. So like, why take something that isn't going to address and improve your situation? And when it comes to, again, specifically like hypothyroidism, I really believe, I'm a nobody, but I believe that is one of the most misdiagnosed things, not just in our industry, but in the general population as well. There's just too many knee-jerk protocols, you know, diagnoses that are made and treatments that are made without actually knowing the human body. You know, so it's like, I don't know if you address like any of that in your video, but I'm definitely excited to, you know, look into that. Maybe you and I can have a little bit more thorough discussion on that as well when it comes to apply to physiques. Because again, even if you are a natural competitor, all of these things, hormones, whether it's testosterone, insulin secretion, you know, T4, T3, all of these variables should be factored in. You know, just because they're acute hormone fluctuation as opposed to, you know, a super physiological, you know, bolus of, you know, of hormones, it still affects the human body.
I think with natural competitors, you need to keep an eye on it more than an enhanced competitor, because, like, I mean, you could see, you know, because natural competitors, from my understanding and for who I've worked with, need to diet over a longer period of time to save as much muscle as possible. And I've noticed that like testosterone levels for the guys in the beginning versus the end are very low. And, you know, and then just naturally as you're dieting down, thyroid function goes down and all those things. I think that's way more important, because with an enhanced person, you can just throw in a little bit of a hormone replacement, you know, dosaging if you needed to, and then you can just, you know, keep going. You don't have to try to fix it, because they're already using things. Let's just add this little piece in to get you back up to normal, and then let's keep going. But with natural competitors, I think keeping an eye on hormones is way more important.
Absolutely. You know, and it's not even just from a result road to the stage point of view. You know, the human body, again, so incredibly adaptive, the body will downregulate. Even in optimal prep, you know, these hormone levels are going to downregulate. And that's just nature of the beast. So you want to address those things to optimize that whole, you know, hormone levels, not only on the road to the stage, but the aftermath.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there are a lot of things that you need to address post-show, metabolic. You know, everybody talks about, you know, metabolic rehab, you know, increasing metabolic capacity after the show. Well, I almost want to say more importantly, you need to reestablish those hormone levels. And this applies to men and women. And oftentimes, I think the natural crowd, obviously I'm generalizing here, but I think a lot of them just kind of forget about the hormone aspect because they think that is a NPC thing. They think that is an enhanced athlete thing where, like you said, Dom, I don't want to say it's more important for a natural competitor, but we have to know. I mean, if you don't know where you're at, you don't know if you don't know where you're at, how are you going to devise a plan to get where you need to be? Right. You know, so it really is, because at the end of the day, you know, granted, we're a freak show, you know, whether it's NPC or natural, like we want to create freaks. But the foundation of our sport is supposed to be health and wellness. And that's natural competitors or NBC. And so we need to remember what our sport is built upon is our health, longevity, you know, and you have to get that inside picture of what's going on, or else you're missing too much information. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how intuitive you are. We can't wing this. I mean, we simply can't.
I guess, do you find it, because I know I get a lot of pushback a lot of times when I ask for labs, which is, you know, they don't want to spend the $130, $250, whatever it is. You know, you try adding tests, you try and add a full thyroid profile. Somebody doesn't want to spend the money on it. Well, I'll see if my doctor can do it, but your doctor isn't going to run the proper test that you need to see for full function.
Yep.
And that's what I run into that situation more often than not.
Yeah, like I had somebody last week. I told them to go. I sent them the link to the life extension test, and she's like, "Oh, I'm due to see my GP. Like, can I just ask them?" And I said, "Look, he's going to give you an earful about what you're asking." I said, "Do yourself a favor, pay the $100, take the script to the lab. They'll email you the results, and then, you know, we can look at everything like that. Because your GP is going to be like, oh, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do that. Why are you getting this tested?" And it's just a headache because they don't want to deal with it.
Yep.
If you're in normal range, you're fine, no matter what.
And what is normal range? I mean,
yeah,
exactly.
Every lab has a different range of everything.
Exactly.
Well, here's the thing, and actually, when it comes to verbiage, we as extreme athletes, again, whether bikini or bodybuilding, we don't want normal. I don't care if you're talking training, nutrition. We want optimal. I don't care.
You just stole the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say optimal. Yeah, you want to be optimal through all of this. Even some guys I know that are like in their mid-20s, you know, and they're natural people who, you know, have like a 200, 220 test score, and their doctor keeps telling them it's normal, you're fine.
Good.
And I'm like, look, you're at the point where you don't need TRT, but you need to figure out why you're so low.
Absolutely.
Like, what is going on that's making you so low? Do you have blood work back when you were a kid, maybe, to see? For me, for example, I have, like, my red blood score, red blood cell score is like an 8.0, which is high if you heard that. And so for me, when I found that out initially, I was like, 8.0, this is crazy. Like, my red blood cell count is so high, but my hematocrit and hemoglobin are in range. So I said, okay, something else might be up. And then I looked back I found blood work when I was like 16, and it's been something I've had my whole life. And I was like, okay, so this is my normal.
Love it.
And that's why I need to look back at that stuff. So come to find out, I have something called beta thalassemia minor. So there's major and minor. Minor is a Middle Eastern hereditary disease. So like my dad has it. We're from Iraq. So it's just something it's just naturally occurring in me. My body has to overcompensate with red blood cells to make enough hemoglobin. And my red blood cells are very, very small compared to the average size of a red blood cell. That's why my count is so high. And as long as it's not affecting hematocrit and blood thickness, it's not something that was alarming. And even the hematologist I talked to, it's not something that's alarming, because when you go see a specialist on things, they can see things in a way different eye than a general practitioner does.
See, and I wish that like literally that story, I wish that could reach the masses, because that's another one of the frustrations that I have, where we look at individual marker, like you go to your GP, and I mean, that's why it's so great that you went to a specialist and he was aware of all that, because all too often a GP will look at a single marker and think something is wrong because it's out of range. Whether it's, creatinine levels are high, your BU and your blood urine nitrogen levels are high. A lot of by all means, look into why that is. But if there's a legitimate reason of why that is for your scenario, that is to be expected, there's nothing to worry about. It's the same thing, for a bodybuilder to have elevated BUN. Well, no shit, I'm taking in 300 grams of protein. Like my kidneys are fine. That marker is high because of my protein consumption.
Yeah, because there's constant amino acid turnover, and the urea is just higher.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like that's one thing that people always freak out about. Like, oh, my BUN's high. Like, I'm like, yeah, because you're eating 250 grams of protein.
Well, I use the analogy all the time where, if you see, well, if a marker is out of range, look into it. I use the analogy all the time where if you see smoke, that doesn't mean the fire department needs to be called. It could be your neighbors are barbecuing. Like,
I like that.
Yeah.
Look into it, but it doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong.
Right.
And that's where, in so many examples of like what you just said, you have physicians are not malicious, but they are spewing out, to put it, garbage to individuals who want to trust the people that they're going to for medical advice, but they're not looking in the details. They're having knee-jerk responses. If they see something, that is elevated or out of whack or out of range, they immediately say, well, you need to stop doing that.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I'm absolutely disgusted with our industry. And I do believe, obviously a physician has its place, and always listen to what your physician says, but people like yourself, name them, you guys are ahead of the curve when it comes to the human body. And when it comes to nutrition, training, all these, I would put my faith in what you guys would have to say over what a GP would say about a majority of things that are human body, nutrition, health related. It's a shame that I have to say that, but we've just seen too many examples of the fear mongering and advisement from our physicians that is absolute garbage.
I think a lot has to do with is like the lack of nutrition education they get.
Yes.
And that's something we can't control. That's something they can't control. Like, just with it, like, I think it's something like 80% of medical schools do not require a nutrition prerequisite or teach nutrition. And that's pretty alarming. That's pretty high.
Well, and what's funny is that when you graduate med school, you take the Hippocratic Oath, yet it was Hippocrates himself that said, let food be thy medicine. Like, how ass backwards are we now? Where, again, our medical community isn't malicious. They're not trying to sabotage us, but we're so quick to write a script for something when the human body is designed to address these things themselves if given the opportunity.
Yeah, like true story. GP, 2018. I get a phone call. You need to come in right away. Okay, your AST is at 55. Your ALT is at 77. And I immediately, and I didn't look alarmed one bit, you know, obviously.
Yeah,
I
because you
trained.
probably worked out 2 days before you went.
I trained extremely hard. So I looked him in the
It's
face
common
and said,
sense, yeah.
I looked at him and I said, why don't you run a glutathione? And he looked at me, he's like, what? I said, run a GGT. I guarantee I'm in normal range. And so he does. And sure enough, I'm in normal range.
Yeah.
But I mean,
People,
you know,
It should be common sense. I mean,
yeah, like because AST is that secretes from skeletal muscle.
Yeah.
Like you can have that turnover from skeletal muscle breakdown. That's why, like, I tell people when they go get liver function test done, like, don't train for 3-4 days, then go get the test done.
it saves you that entire talk. So
yeah.
But I mean, you know, a phone call, you need to get in here right away. Okay, you have no idea what's going on. And then when you say the results, I'm just dumbfounded that you wouldn't think to try and expand further upon.
Yeah, but that might be that could be things like we were saying, like it's just doctors are very intelligent people. They're just intelligent in what they do. Like
Correct.
They're not taught exercise physiology. They're not taught, you know, things that have to do with exercise and stuff. You know, unless that's obviously their thing. Like I know really good sports orthopedic doctors, but like you know, we're talking about specialists now. And that's a whole different realm of things. But like just on the general consensus of, you know, things, they're not. And I have a lot of doctor friends that are internal med, and they ask me questions all the time because they just, you know, they want to learn, they want to, you know, expand their knowledge, because I think the new doctors coming up are a little bit more fitness conscious now, because that didn't exist 20-30 years ago as much as it does now. I mean, the fitness industry is ginormous now, and it's like one of the number one growing industries still. And I think the younger doctors are fit people already in college. They're becoming, you know, medical professionals now, and I think you might see another turn with the way they approach medicine. Hopefully, I mean, I hope so.
I believe it. I believe they are.
Yeah. So, you know what I wanted to ask you about was that Natural Olympia in Las Vegas. I always hear about it, but like I've never actually like came across stuff from it.
So the Natural Olympia, been around. Don't quote me on the exact time frame, but I believe 30 years. So it's been around for a long time. Of course, our industry, bodybuilding as a whole, is very unique, where you have bodybuilding, and then you have a whole separate sport called natural bodybuilding. Yeah. And for a long time, natural bodybuilding was just kind of kept in the shadows, partially because the sport simply wasn't at a place where that it should be. The quality just wasn't there. So a lot of people, again, they complain about where the sport is, and they sit there scratching their head of why isn't natural bodybuilding bigger? Because it should be, in theory, it's more marketable to the general public. I mean, there's no reason why natural bodybuilding shouldn't be bigger. Well, the reason is how it's been ran. In the last few years now, we've been improving things by leaps and bounds, raising the bar. So the Natural Olympia is getting more and more clout. Over $100,000 in cash. They were giving away a car every year up until 3 years ago, and we switched to the Harley Davidson motorcycle. So in addition to over $100,000 in cash and prizes, they also give away the Harley Davidson to one of the pro champions as well.
So is it affiliated with the actual Olympia?
No.
No. Okay.
So yeah, it's completely different sanctioning body. What's funny is, I mean, because you look at, you have Olympia and a Natural Olympia. When it comes to trademark laws, they look at them as two different sports.
Right.
NPC versus Natural, IFBB Pro League. It's actually two separate sports. So that's why you can have a Natural Olympia and an Olympia without any affiliation.
Okay. That makes sense. That's actually crazy that it's that different of a thing, like a completely different sport.
Yeah. Yeah, with, you know, and the other thing that natural bodybuilding has been kind of fighting an uphill battle with is there are so many different federations. I mean, even for somebody that is like in the know, it still can get overwhelming and confusing. So every federation has its own season finale. You have the OCB has a Jordan Cup, the IPE has their Worlds, you know, the INBA, PNBA has their Natural Olympia, and you know, I support all of, not just natural bodybuilding, I support all of bodybuilding. As long as you're competing where you belong to compete, like I'm 100% for it. The Natural Olympia really is truly the pinnacle of natural bodybuilding, though, and the fact that they have over 50 countries from around the globe come in.
Oh, wow.
So this isn't just, I mean, and I want to, you know, other federations that have their world championships, like, and it's in Missouri, and it's all United States competitors. Like that's not a world championship. So the Natural Olympia is, I mean, it really is a global experience. Last year, we actually had Generation Iron there. So the next Generation Iron that will, I believe, be released next month is actually for the Natural Olympia.
No, that's sweet. So that's pretty cool.
Definitely keep an eye out for that next month. And then the Iron Man magazine, Denny Kakos and Doug Grant, Denny Kakos and the Kakos family, they run the INBA, PNBA. They had the opportunity to actually purchase Iron Man magazine. So now all of our events are covered in the magazine as well. So we're finally getting opportunities, because for a long time, I'm sure you guys have heard this and maybe even said it yourself, there's no opportunities in natural bodybuilding. You know, if you want to make something up, you have to go in the NPC, you know, and work your way up the ranks to, you know, national level in the IFBB Pro League. That was true for a long time. That no longer applies, though, with, you know, the Natural Olympia, with Ironman magazine. You know, I have my Minnesota Mayhem in October. I'm giving away a $10,000 check for the first place winner of Pro Bikini, for example. You know, we're now raising the bar, and I actually feel that there's more opportunities in the drug-free sport than there is, you know, moving up the ranks in the enhanced leagues. Yeah. So well, I think
go ahead.
I really think that the times of you know, natural bodybuilding not getting any recognition, I think those times are over. You know, my job is to create superstars. I want to create Michigan pro stars. You know, that's why I love, you know, the Michigan Roar being an amateur pro qualifier. We get to showcase the pros at our Michigan State, you know, get them some money, get them qualified for the Natural Olympia. You know, I really think that if somebody chooses to do this drug-free and they want to compete in the natural federations, there is a lot of opportunities to be showcased, not only domestically, but even globally in an iconic magazine like Iron Man magazine.
I mean, obviously the days of in turning pro in bodybuilding, getting a contract with a supplement company are out the window, because if you don't have the following on a platform, it doesn't matter you're not making them money. What can you offer that company? And that's the biggest thing. Being a pro anymore isn't, you know, it's just a title at this point.
Yeah.
You know? Even back in the day, even if you take the 90s, guys were at the amateur national level, they were getting these contracts. Now, unless you have a following on social media of some sort, you're not going to have much.
Yeah,
the sport's definitely evolving.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity in natural bodybuilding. I think just being a natural bodybuilder in general, there's a lot of opportunity. Even if you're not a natural bodybuilding competitor, I think just being a natural bodybuilder, like I've seen, you know, natural guys I know that have huge, you know, huge social media followings, and they built a successful business out of it all just because they're natural.
Well, and the whole thing is, you know, I don't know exactly where you guys sit on this, but I believe, gotta love social media. It feels like I know you guys, but I really, you know, I haven't spent too much time actually with you. But like, I'm a purist of the sport. I believe Nate is, and I don't know about you, Dom, you know, and like we're proud to be bodybuilders. We're proud to be a part of this industry. And typically we have a little bit of, you know, again, I'm not going to speak for either one of you, but there's a little bit of animosity toward where our industry, where our culture is right now, with being Instagram fit and you know, and Instagram famous.
Yeah, no,
all
I
these
can't stand that stuff.
Like,
No.
and we can complain about that all we want, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and that is the reality of our industry. Which goes to your point, Dom. You can be, from a business point of view, you can be a successful bodybuilder, yet not ever win an overall title, never turning pro, not even ever stepping on stage if you market yourself correctly. So there's a lot of opportunities just embracing the lifestyle. Now, I love our sport, and it kind of pains me to see people kind of skirt around actually gracing the stage and being competitive on stage, because I love our sport and I want to see it, you know, continue to grow and reach its, you know, it reaches true potential where I know where it can be. But again, if parlayed correctly, if approached correctly, there's a lot of opportunities both on and off the stage that somebody could have within our industry.
Yeah, there's huge opportunities. Huge opportunities. I mean, I think Instagram, for example, you know, I use it really strictly for business, and I feel like that was the best platform for me to utilize to grow my business. And you know, it's all about the audience that person is trying to attract. If they're the kind that wants to attract a certain kind of audience, they're going to do it this way. If they want to do it another way, they'll do it another way. So I think, you know, with the business aspect of just bodybuilding, fitness, all of that in general, I feel like when it comes to social media, they just have to know where they want to be in that realm. Like, do they want to be the guy who's doing demonstration videos all the time, or do they want to be the guy that's doing nutrition explanations all the time? Just like going back and forth between both, you're not going to get such a mix of audiences. You're going to have to kind of focus and just take one lane. And that's what I believe, at least. And that's what I found for me worked the best.
See, but I think you really, this is not only personal development, you know, and business development. I think you hit the nail on the head, which I wish more people thought about, is personal awareness. I mean, just being honest with you, there's no wrong answer to what approach you want to use, and you shouldn't do something just because you feel that that's where the eyeballs are going, or where do you want to take things, you know? And that's just having the awareness, the self-awareness of where do you want to go.
What do you want to bring to this society? 100%. What do you want to bring to this community? Because if you're not bringing what you actually want to bring, and you're just doing it for, you know, whatever it is, you're not going to have any self-satisfaction out of that.
Exactly. Yep.
And like for me, I wanted to be somebody that educated and still did a good job, and still, you know, taught people about their health. So that was like my whole avenue for the longest time. And it still is my avenue for the longest time. When somebody signs up with me and I give them their supplement suggestions and whatnot, they get a whole entire ebook that I have all the research done on the supplements. But that's just because I wanted to provide that for them. Mm-hmm. I wanted to teach them about what they're taking. So when somebody tells them, what is vitamin D good for? They can explain it. They don't have to ask me and then I tell them. They can just explain it.
Well, and the whole thing is, like, through your social media, again, that's the only way that I know you personally, is through social media. When you market yourself, when you put out that information, when you put out that content, I'm telling you, Nate, or I'm telling you, Dom, like, it's genuine. Like, I can feel your passion for what you do, because you're not just forcing something on a platform because you feel that's where the people are. Like, I can feel that everything that you put out content-wise is to help people. I can feel, you know, the passion behind those posts that you make. So I really believe that. I mean, it's genuine. It is. Well,
I appreciate that a lot.
We appreciate that. You know, you're not, I mean, you are a good salesman, but you can tell that it's more than just a pitch with what you put out there. So, I mean, again, the industry, like, thank you. I mean, it's good to have people like that out there, that this is more than just a dollar to you. I mean, you're really doing what you are, what you're put on earth for. I mean, you can tell this is a gift of yours, and that's what you made a business out of your gift. You know, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. We are coming up on about an hour now.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Nate, are we gonna see you on TikTok then?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Could you imagine Nate doing one of those dances?
My big ass ain't doing nothing.
No, but thank you so much, Leif, for coming on today.
I appreciate it. Well, again, hopefully we'll have, hopefully next time we'll have a little bit more of a streamlined list of topics to discuss. But I loved coming on and chatting with you guys. Right?
No, even chatting and just getting, that's the best. Just
talking. So how many weeks out are we from Michigan State?
All right, Michigan State, September 12th in Grand Rapids. It's a pro-am. Because the Michigan Roar, which typically is our season debut in Michigan, was canceled. Like I said earlier, I want to help create Michigan pros to compete on that pro stage. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to have the amateurs go on first. And for the overall champions at the Michigan State, September 12th in Grand Rapids, we're actually, so they're going to earn their pro card, but I'm going to give them an opportunity to compete as a pro that day. So they will actually be going on in the afternoon with their pros, if they choose to do so. And it is a Natural Olympia qualifier too.
Yes.
So hypothetically, we could have a dark horse come out from Michigan as an amateur, win the amateur, compete as a pro, going all the way to the Natural Olympia. And I have to say that everybody talks about the downfalls of prepping during the pandemic. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in Vegas in November at the Natural Olympia, considering this pandemic has derailed so many preps. We honestly, this is the makings of a Cinderella story of somebody coming out of
We
nowhere.
were just talking about that today.
So I'm excited. I mean, through any trials or tribulations is opportunity. So I really think there's opportunity in this. So hopefully you spread the word. Get our Michiganers, put a little hustle behind the muscle, and I will see you in September.
Yes, 16 weeks.
Yeah.
All right.